welcome to Think About Thursday. Nice to see you all, whether you are watching live or on replay. Thank you, everyone who, for your well wishes. I can't speak. For your well wishes. I still can't speak. Last week, when I did my quick little live to say I wasn't doing a proper live because I wasn't very well. I had shingles. I don't recommend that. Just as an aside, shingles is a reactivation of the chickenpox virus, and generally it reactivates when you have not been, when you're under a lot of stress or when you're a bit run down or whatever the case may be. I wasn't feeling particularly run down, I wasn't feeling particularly stressed, but when I look back, I have been, pretty much go, for quite some time now, working on growing my business, working on engaging with all of you beautiful people, and trying to fit a lot in. And so possibly it was my body just saying, hey, whoa, slow down a little bit. Remember to take time to rest, which is ironic because I spend a lot of time working with my clients, reminding them how important it is to take time to rest, to look after themselves, and to not continually be on that hamster wheel. So anyway, feeling an awful lot better today. Thank you again for anyone who, or for everyone for thinking of me. So today's topic is, when is it a good time to have teenage conversations? And I'll be perfectly honest, I thought about this topic earlier in the week, and then my daughter had a bit of an issue at school, making not the best choices, and I did have a moment of, maybe I won't talk about it this week because clearly I'm not doing brilliantly with my teenagers. But then I thought, well, no, that's all the more reason to share, because we all know that we all do our best with our kids, with our families, using the resources that we have available, and things don't always go according to our plans. And our families, our kids, our teenagers will make decisions that aren't necessarily the best decisions for them. And it's important that we share that with each other because it helps us all to feel a little bit better. So I thought, let's continue with the conversation around when is a good time to have conversations with your teenagers. So what we find is that as our teenagers go through their teenage phases, quite often they're not interested in conversing with us. Maybe we don't know enough anymore. They're discovering all of their information through friends or through YouTube or wherever the case may be. And some of our conversations might turn into arguments, might even descend into yelling matches occasionally, which is never pleasant. I'm sure many of us, myself included, have been there before. So what if we could find a way to converse with our teenagers that is engaging, pleasant, and rewarding most of the time? Wouldn't that be nice? Is that something you would like to know a little bit more about? I don't profess to be the expert in teenage conversations. I am simply sharing some of my experiences, A, with my own teenagers, B, with what I've been learning over the past couple of years, working with teenagers, and also working on improving communication skills in general, because it's something that I am continually working on, and an area that I'm absolutely fascinated by. So I thought, why not share some of the things that I've learned that have certainly, for me, helped improve my communication style with my own children. So, two things I'm going to talk about: communication and also timing. When is the best time to have these conversations with your teenagers? Yes, you saw me flick over my notes. Okay, communication style. Some of you will know that I recently, when I say recently, last year, I did a course in neuro-linguistic programming, and that is an area that I find absolutely fascinating because it has helped me to improve my communications all across the board. And a couple of things that really resonated with me around conversations with teenagers are just the ways we might preempt a conversation or preempt when we're asking them something that will help them to open up to speaking with us. And so a couple of tips I just thought I would like to mention. One is starting a conversation with, I'm curious. I'm curious. What are your thoughts about? Or, I've been wondering, what do you think about? And just putting in that little, qualifier at the beginning, I'm curious or I'm wondering, rather than coming at them with, well, what do you think about this or what do you think about that? Starting with the I'm curious puts into their minds that you actually really do want to know what they think. which of course is what you wanted anyway when you started the conversation with tell me about this or tell me about that. But when you start it with that extra layer of I'm curious or I've been wondering, it just triggers something in their subconscious mind to start being curious and wondering themselves, and they may be more likely to engage in a discussion with you. It's also, if you think about it, it's less confrontational, right? Because you are genuinely curious to know what their thoughts are, but they're not saying, or they're not coming out feeling that they have to defend whatever their position is, because you are genuinely curious to hear what it is. So that's one. I'm curious or I've been wondering. The other thing I want to mention about teenage communication, and this applies to everything, is the subconscious mind doesn't hear things after negatives. Let me explain. If you say, it doesn't hear negatives, sorry, it doesn't process the negatives. If you say, don't forget the milk, your subconscious mind will ignore the don't and will hear, forget the milk. How many of us have said to ourselves, don't forget the milk, don't forget the milk, don't forget the milk, don't forget the milk, and we duck into the corner shop or the RJ or Woolworths or whatever it is, and we get distracted and we grab a few other bits and pieces and we get home, oh, I forgot the milk. I knew I'd forget the milk. If instead of saying, don't forget the milk, you said, remember the milk, you are more likely to remember the milk. So the same thing applies to our teenage kids when we are saying to them, don't forget to put the bins out, or don't forget to make the bed, or don't forget to put your clothes away. They will forget because we're literally telling them to forget. So remember to put the bins out, remember to put your clothes away, remember to make your bed. And if you follow that up with a qualifier, remember to put the bins out because we will miss bin night otherwise, and then our bins will be overflowing and we won't be able to get rid of our rubbish. Remember to put your clothes away because you're going to trip over them when you walk out of your bedroom door. That one particularly applies to my middle son. But a qualifier actually gives them a reason to remember it and to do it as well. So think about that when you are asking or reminding your teenagers to do something for you. So that's the communication piece. In terms of the timing piece, don't. Remember, there's probably not a lot of value in trying to have a conversation with your teenagers when they're hungry or when they're in the middle of a game, particularly a computer game. Around the dinner table, you know this. I'm not giving you anything groundbreaking there, but around the dinner table, if everybody is in a nice, relaxed mood and you're all sat down together, that can be a brilliant time for conversations with your teenagers. But the other thing I have found now with two of my boys learning how to drive, one of them in particular, when we go driving, does not stop talking, 100 miles an hour, and guaranteed anything I ask at that point in time, he will respond to. So we can have some great conversations in between me saying, stay in your lane, watch the corner, check over your shoulder, so on and so forth. But there's lots of conversations going on in between. So it's really quite valuable. So that's a good time to chat with that particular son. Girls, the one thing I wanted to mention about girls is once your daughters are menstruating, if you can have a conversation with them around tracking not just their cycle, we all encourage that, right? When's your period due and how long do you bleed for and so on and so forth. But what we really want to encourage as well is tracking their moods and their energies and their confidence levels and their enthusiasm, tracking all of that throughout the whole month, because all of those things fluctuate with their natural hormones. And so if they start tracking that regularly, they start to have an understanding of when they feel full of energy and enthusiastic and open to conversation versus when they might feel, oh, they just need a little bit more of their alone time, or they just want to cocoon themselves in their room for a day or so because they're feeling a little bit tired, or they may just be starting their period and it's a bit heavy. Knowing how they feel when they're likely to feel based on their hormonal fluctuations, getting in touch with that rhythm actually helps them to harness their own inner powers, which means that if you want to have an important conversation with your teenage daughter, for example, and you know what her monthly cycle is like, you can pick and choose your time as well. So wherever you can, encourage your daughter to really pay attention to a whole month's worth of information for a number of cycles so that she knows what's going on, and she'll start to see the patterns that emerge, and then have conversations with her around those patterns. What are you noticing? What have you seen? When do you feel at your best? When are you most full of energy? When do you feel you're most creative? And I bet if you think back over the last few months and think about how sometimes it seems that your daughter may be in the best mood ever and she'll talk non-stop, and then other times she's barely grunting at you. If you knew, or if she knew, where she was in her cycle, you may see a pattern forming there as well. So pick your timing wherever possible based on that sort of level of knowledge as well. So, summary. Choose your words to encourage dialogue with your teenagers. I'm curious. I wonder. Remember. Practice it. It might feel a little bit odd at first, but the more you do it, the easier it gets, and the more you get good results, and so then you do it more and more. And let me know your thoughts. That's it for today's Think About Thursday. I trust that has been some valuable information in there for you, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Remember, #replay if you're watching it on replay. I love to hear your comments or to see what resonated or landed for you. See you next week. Take care. Bye.